Okay, so what the hell am I gonna review this time? I'm certainly not doing Mario again for a little while. I mean, he took up the last 3.5 of my 4 last episodes, so if I'm getting sick of him, you guys are getting sick of him, so... what the hell am I gonna do? It's gotta be something different, completely refreshing, and the total fucking opposite. Huh. Oh yeah, we're definitely doing this one today. You know, I told you I was gonna do the complete opposite of Mario, but I didn't tell you which complete opposite. So here's something I never thought I'd be doing, a follow-up to a mini review. Or, well, at least not doing one this soon, but I figured why not? It's been about a year now since the dust has settled, and I'm out of that honeymoon period with the game. Plus, Mania Plus, for fuck's sakes. But the other thing is, Mania just dropped a decent-sized update, so it felt kind of like the perfect time to revisit this game, as it lets me do something a little different from most reviews, as I'll be able to break this up into 2 sections. First part is, I'll get to talk about how I felt about the vanilla version when it was all said and done, and the second half can focus on the Plus content, but let's get into it. So let's kind of start at the beginning. My beginning. As far back as I can remember, Sonic the Hedgehog has been a name that has always influenced my taste in video games. Sonic 2 was the very first game I ever remember playing. According to my folks, that goes as far as back as 2 years old. So even at a young age, I was addicted. Whether it was playing Sonic 2 or getting the chance to play Sonic and Knuckles at my cousin's house, or frantically taking any chance to watch the adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, I was a fan and I was able to appreciate just how important the Blue Hedgehog was back then. And this is an aspect of my gaming habits that have never changed. Whether it was during the adventure era or even up to the bad times like Sonic 06 or Forces, I've always taken some interest in this franchise. Like realistically, I could probably get away with starting a second channel that focuses entirely on the Sonic series since there's not that much I don't know about it, but that's a story for another day. The reason why I bring this up is to show just how much of a big deal Mania's initial announcement really was for me, and obviously for a lot of other fans. It was hitting every right note for me. A traditional 2D game that looks, feels, and plays like the classics, being developed by Christian Whitehead, Headcanon, Pagoda West, and a few other people who actually understand what makes the Genesis era special, as well as that sexy 1632-bit era graphics. Oh man, but you know what? I wouldn't even care if they stuck with the modern look. It just looked that promising to me after knowing who was working on it. There was a lot to be hopeful here when it was first announced, and fuck me, that time frame from announcement to release couldn't go by any slower. Like straight up, 2017 was the year of the Switch, Breath of the Wild, Resident Evil 7, Super Mario Odyssey, but here I am most hyped about a game that could have been considered a glorified indie title. But I didn't care. I was the prime target demographic for this game. It's obvious I ate that nostalgic pandering game right up. But like I said earlier, I'm well past that hype period. So do I still think highly of it? You're damn right I do, but the cracks did surface after a bit, and what I originally thought were nitpicks at the time did turn into valid complaints, and I understood why some may have been bugged by them, even after a patch. So, for the 2 of you out there who doesn't know, what is Sonic Mania? Well, it's a 2D platformer with the goal being to get from point A to point B as you explore these non-linear levels. Just the main gimmick here is its emphasis on speed. If you played any Genesis era Sonic, then you know what you're getting into, especially if you played Sonic 3 or Sonic & Knuckles, with Mania taking the most inspiration from the 2 games that butt-fuck each other. And for good reason too, cause for many, Sonic 3 and Knuckles is considered the best Sonic game ever made. So to try and top that game is quite the mountain to climb, and Sonic Mania Vanilla does everything it could to be a worthy successor, and it does it pretty well. First off, I gotta mention this game's art direction. Now, like I've said, this aspect wouldn't have made or break the game for me like it did for some with Sonic 4 back in the day. You know, I'd like to believe that I'm not that petty to get hung up on green eyes. Just saying. But I'd be lying if I said the 1632-bit direction didn't tug at my Genesis heartstrings. Seeing that style come back, it must have been the same feeling Mega Man fans had back when Mega Man 9 was announced almost a decade ago. And Sonic Mania took that up to a whole new level. Everything was more bright and vibrant. Animations for everything was so fluid, and the music, oh my fuck. I don't give a shit what anyone says. This is hands down the best soundtrack for this series to date. The songs we grew up with got great updates and remixes. And the new stuff, oh my god, I just got a heart on just thinking about it.
Do I make you horny, baby? Do I? Do I make you randy?
Oh yes you do, you magnificent musical bastard. My ears will be orgasmic for years. Well, that is until I turn Super and changes the music to the Super theme. I mean, it's a good theme, certainly better than the other ones. But Press Gardens Act 2, that's a true sin to cut that one short. So Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles all return as playable characters with all their defining features. Tails can fly, Knuckles can glide, and Sonic gets a new ability with the drop dash, and fuck me was I wrong about this one. What the drop dash does is let Sonic do an automatic spin dash when he touches the ground if you hold down the jump button in the air. I originally thought this move would have ended up being kind of pointless unless you were a speedrunner. And while yes, it's probably a speedrunner's best friend, the drop dash became my go-to move, pretty much to the point where I didn't even want to use anyone else but Sonic at this point before the update. The ability to keep the momentum going and not having to worry about the pace grinding to a halt a lot of the time became addicting for me. And I can never see Sonic without this move ever again. It's that good. Though, I still believe that replacing the Insta-Shield was kinda stupid. Like I mentioned in the past, the Insta-Shield, Drop Dash, and even the Super Peel-Out could have all worked with each other without it feeling confusing or overlapping with each other. I think the only reason why they limited Sonic to one per session was because they didn't want Sonic to overshadow Tails or Knuckles when it came to abilities. Not to mention he's the only one who could use the Elemental Shield perks. I don't know, I think it would have worked out fine, but hey, as I recently learned, you can do this very thing with cheat codes in the sound test. So we're getting somewhere. And speaking of which, cheat codes in a video game? Sweet, because you know what, that's a very rare thing nowadays. Now, of course, it doesn't matter how fun characters might be to play as if the levels aren't fun to play through. And I can safely say this is the best level design we have ever seen for 2D Sonic. You can tell that just about every inch of these zones were thought out properly and thoroughly, as it's able to keep you going fast at times even if you only have a decent grasp of the game. You won't lose a life over cheap bullshit, and it does all this without holding your hand too. There's no bullshit dead-end stops that lock you in a room like Carnival Night Zone did, no dickhead enemy placement, barely any bottomless pits like Dim's games were riddled with, and doing all this in such huge level layouts. I already know this is going to be like the other Genesis games where in like 20 to 30 years later, I'll still be finding new paths and secrets. Even the biggest deniers of Sonic games will have a hard time arguing that this design was bad. And this extends to the special stages as well in my opinion. These Saturn-style 3D stages, to me, they were really good. They combined elements of different stages and managed to make them fun, and I dare say one of the best. Granted, didn't have much competition outside of Blue Sphere, as most of them were all pretty trash, but I'm still deciding whether I prefer Blue Sphere or this. Yet in reality, I don't even have to do that since Blue Sphere showed up as a Star Post minigame. An awesome inclusion that unfortunately turned out to be a pretty annoying intrusion after you got all the medals. I mean, it's great to see it come back after all these years, but after a while, the novelty wore off and I just started avoiding those stars like the plague. Good intentions, and I appreciate what they were trying to do, just to drag things down after a while. And unfortunately, the bosses are a bit of a mixed bag as well. You can break each of them into 3 categories. Simple, awesome, simple, amazing, crap, simple, simple, great idea, execution kinda sucks, so crap. Simple, awesome, simple, and oh my fuck you, Metal Sonic! What a disappointment this fight was, not to mention damn near unbearable the first time around. It starts off great. You start racing and reach the end while dodging his attacks. It's quick, action-packed, and feels exhilarating. But then we get to phase 2 and oh my god, talk about a painful and grinding, frustrating fucking pull. Nowadays, it's not that bad when you know the trick. When the little Silver Sonics begin to rev up, just spin dash into them and they'll always bank off the wall and hit Metal Sonic. But when you don't know this trick, you're probably gonna lose a life or two just from running out of time as you try and jump and juggle them into him. Now, it's not impossible to juggle the little bastards into the metal doppelganger, but Christ, I was saying George Carlin's 7 bad words you can't say on TV more times than you can imagine. And then we get here. Has anyone actually ever fucking died at this part? What was easily supposed to be one of the most hyped parts of the game turned into one of the biggest letdowns for Mania. It's such a shame, but whatever, back to the list. Awesome, awesome, well the first part anyway, crap, even more crap, amazing callback, simple, hard but awesome, simple, fun, awesome, easy with rings, awesome, fun, 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 simple unforgettable, 9, awesome, 12, crap, 5. So as you can see, only about half really stood out, and the rest were either forgettable or I didn't like them. Now to be fair, I've seen worse tallies, but it is something to note, so I had to bring it up. Now, the last and possibly biggest argument one could make about Sonic Mania is probably the decision to once again revisit old levels. For some, this was a turnoff, and for others, they didn't care and were just happy enough with the Genesis style coming back in general. I, for the longest time, didn't mind them reusing old levels again. In a way, I still don't, because Christian and his team did everything they could to make the returning levels feel fresh and unique, especially the second acts. Outside of level themes, these acts felt like entirely new levels, which definitely helped soften the blow that not every level was going to be new and original. Hey, I gotta congratulate them for breathing new life into these zones. Yet, when you compare them to the 4 new levels, it's like night and day. These are hands down some of the best levels the Sonic series has ever seen. Again, Press Garden Zone Act 2, easily my favorite zone in the entire series now. But even Studiopolis, Mirage Saloon, and Titanic Monarch, playing through them are always a joy. It's just unfortunate that they'll always remind me of what could have been if every zone was new in Mania, you know? I pray that if Mania 2 ever happens, Sega finally lets these guys have full creative control because they've clearly proven that they're capable. Hell, Sonic Mania is the highest rated Sonic game in like 15 years. There's no excuse to keep these guys from having free range anymore. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm kinda over the nostalgia pandering some platformers have been doing over the past few years. It isn't cool or cute anymore. All it's doing is getting in the way of creativity as far as I'm concerned. Thankfully, like I said earlier, the team did everything they could to not make Mania feel like a retread, but next time the game needs its own identity, not a best of, you know? In the end, Sonic Mania did so many things right. A magical return to form for 2D Sonic with great level design, fun mechanics, and all around just a lot of polish, just although there's some things about the fucking game that doesn't want to die after 25 years later. Asshole. But after the hype died down and I really looked at things, it still couldn't beat Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Not because the game did it first, no. I fucking hate that mentality, you know, the kind where it's like, oh, the game did it first, so that means it's automatically better. No, it's just that you can only do so much with remixes, and in the end, that's what held the game back. Of course, that's what I'd be saying if this was it for Sonic Mania, but a year later, that's not the case. We got a decent-sized update, and, well, did the update fix the problems I have with the original? Let's see. You know, it's funny, I think the Plus DLC got more promotion than the base game did. Releasing a physical version in the Sonic Mania Adventures shorts were a cute watch, and there's something here because a lot of people want this to become a series. Although, I think they'll have to tone down the crudeness down quite a bit. I don't think most want an R-rated version in the future. What? I can't be the only one that saw Mighty showing his big chili dog at the end. You can try and cover that with Tails choking on his, but I knew what you were doing, so do it again. Heh. But really though, these poor guys. This DLC was probably one of the worst leaked things related to gaming I've ever seen. The update gets accidentally released early, and outside of the new characters and a couple bonus stages, every change and update were spoiled, and the new Encore mode was pretty much fully playable. And while I avoided spoiling myself with the new stuff, I did know about certain things that made writing the first half of this review easier since I could at least talk about some of the changes. I still feel for the team though, you know, they're probably all excited to surprise the fans and then that happens. Oh well, I guess if I could spin this in any positive way, it's that the ones who got access to the update early probably got to experience what people felt with Sonic 3 over 20 years ago, with not being able to get to some parts of the levels. Maybe, hey, I tried. But you know who were trying? The ones who put together this physical edition. I'm not the biggest on collector's editions of games. Hell, as cool as that statue that came out last year was, this to me was 10 times better. It's got that beautiful protective sleeve, actually comes with a physical cart, probably one of the biggest reasons why I skipped the collector's edition last year. Comes with that neat art book that was nice to skim through. Best of all, it has that reversible cover that looks like the Sega Genesis case that I quickly switched to. There's no way in hell that I could resist such a temptation. It'd be a disgrace to gaming, damn it! For the asking price of all this, I gladly had no problem double dipping to get this. Granted, I would have done so even if it was just a card since I like having physical, but this pretty little package made it so much easier to put money down on it. But even if you stuck with digital, with the Plus DLC, the base game got an update which added and changed certain things to the campaign, such as new level transition cutscenes that continued Mania's attention to detail with nods to the older stuff, like the hang glider after flying battery, as well as fleshing out more of the story, such as when we finally get to see Titanic Monarch before actually playing on it, so that we see what the hell we're actually running around on. I personally never really cared that not every level originally had a transition scene, certainly wouldn't have taken any points off the game for it, but it's nice to see them fill in the blanks here, it's a nice extra. And there were some little bug fixes too, like for examples the End Knuckles mode where he would just act a little weird at points. Knuckles, what the fuck are you doing? Rolling around at the speed of snail. I've got places to be and you're not fucking helping, cocksucker. Even little touches like giving Tails a real animation at the start of Chemical Plant, or seeing everyone's eyes shift when they're frozen. It adds up, and there's a bunch of little graphics or animations that were added to give this game much more polish. It gives off that sense that the development team just want to make the best game they possibly can, and like that Alice Cooper song, it's the little things that drive me wild. The other main change to the base game was that some of the bosses were retooled and rebalanced, or Metal Sonic's case completely different, and holy hell, this was a welcome surprise. That Silver Sonic phase was updated so that even if you don't know the trick, they would still do damage to Metal if you broke them, as they would send out little energy balls that would normally head in his direction. But easily the best part about here is that if you do know the trick, then Metal Sonic only takes 3 hits instead of 6 from the energy balls. That's amazing to me. Not only did they turn the most frustrating part of the fight into something fair if you didn't know how to spin dash these little bastards into him, they also rewarded you if you did know how to do that. That's ingenious. And then the final phase, like, do I even have to say anything else? This is a million times better. There's actually a chance you can die here, and is all around much more epic with its huge size and different attacks. I don't know how they managed it, but they turned the worst boss fight, and in my opinion, the worst part of the game, into easily the best. Good job. Like, seriously, good job. But that's what you got with the base update. The main attractions are Encore mode, 4-player competition mode, and of course the 2 new playable characters, Mighty the Armadillo and Ray the Flying Squirrel. One of those things I won't be able to talk about, unfortunately, since I don't have anyone here to play with me since competition isn't allowed to be played online, which is disappointing since it's set up like Sonic 2's Versus mode, where getting to the end first doesn't always spell victory. So to have that but up to 4 players and 5 characters to play as with their own perks? Yeah, it's kind of baffling that there isn't any option for online, and it's a shame since I know I would love this mode, but well, maybe someday. Probably not. Anyway, Encore mode is best described as, well, basically hard mode. Each level has a new palette swap and a couple of remix things like item box and giant ring locations, and there are generally more enemies to make things a bit trickier and challenging. Once in a while there's some stuff that you can smash with Mighty to reach lower areas, but outside of a condensed act of Angel Island Zone, and Mirage Saloon getting a brand new act to replace a Sky Chase-like act whenever you played as Sonic or Tails, that's pretty much it when it comes to the levels themselves. If you were expecting every level to have their layout changed up dramatically, well then you were setting yourself up for disappointment big time. I did everything I could to stay clear of any damning info for this update, but even I knew Encore was going to be more of the same for level design. There's some changes, just not a lot to level design like some were hoping for. And honestly, it's $5, not sure what you could expect really. But that's not to say it's a complete rehash. While most of the cutscenes are still the same outside of the new transition scenes, there is a new opening and ending cutscene to let us know that this takes place after Sonic Forces. Or, well, at least I think it does. And it does what it needs to. They're cute and fun to watch, and that's what matters most in these cases. One of the more notable changes veteran Mania players will notice is that Encore mode has 7 more emeralds to collect in. Oh boy! If you thought the original 7 special stages were easy, well, here's your 7 AM kick in the balls, because these are hands down some of the hardest special stages that are actually fair and challenging. You know, not that gimmicky bullshit difficulty that I've ever played my 20 plus years with this series. Other than the 2nd emerald, it took me a few tries before I actually got one of them, with the 7th emerald probably taking me well over 10 tries. They don't hold any punches. In Mania mode, I could easily get away with sticking to Mach 2 and pretty much get all of them. Even stick to Mach 1 on a good day. But here, oh no. Oh no 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 no. You're gonna need Mach 3 if you even want a chance to beat these stages. But like I mentioned, these feel like a proper challenge, and to me they were a lot more fun to play through. These stages are a lot bigger and more abstract with multiple paths, and when you start getting a feel for them, they can feel like a rush when you manage to take big shortcuts. These new stages were a nice surprise and they felt so rewarding to complete them. But other than that, the last major change to Encore mode is, well, there's no lives this time around. Yeah, when you start the game you only start off as Sonic, and when you rescue Mighty and Ray, you get to choose one of them to join up, with the other turning out to be Heavy Magician. And then you'll be shown that you can switch between the two at any time. Later on you'll find monitors with the other 3 characters' faces on it, or in the new pinball bonus stage. And if you collect them, then you'll see a little blip to know that they are part of your team now. If you're like me, at first you might be a little confused once you get a 3rd character, as the game doesn't allow you to switch to them. But soon you'll see 2 new monitors that'll allow you to switch the characters that you have in your party. Now, how do I feel about this? Well, I get what they were trying to do. Basically make it where you play as all 5 characters no matter what, instead of just sticking to one. I keep going back and forth whether I think this was a good move or not, but in the end I wish you could just switch between all the characters you have collected, not just the 2 that are on screen. Which, to be fair, is a great feature. I love the ability to switch between the 2 on the fly, but only being able to of 2 at a time does feel kinda limiting. Plus, it wouldn't sting too much when you accidentally hit one of those 2 monitors and switch to another character that you didn't want at the moment. And it would also give a little bit more risk to use your favorite character, because if you die as them, then you have to make do with the other 4 until you get them back. So yeah, to come full circle, Encore doesn't have lives. What you have is characters. If you die, you don't restart at a checkpoint, well that is unless you die in a bottomless pit or something similar. You keep going as the next character in line until you get said dead character back. When I first learned this, I didn't know what to make of it at the beginning. I immediately thought it would make things too easy, but once I got the flying battery and embarrassingly lost 2 characters right off the bat, that's when I started feeling some pressure. And you know what? I really like this approach. It definitely needs a couple touch-ups like having access to all characters at any time, but this has become my preferred way to play Sonic Mania. Even with just 2 characters, it opens up so many different routes. Like in Lava Reef Act 2, depending on what you do, you'll either reach Heavy Rider or Heavy King. That just makes me think about what the possibilities are for a sequel if this idea comes back. Endless possibilities, without a doubt. So all that's really left to talk about is probably the only reason why anyone would even pay $5 for this DLC. The 2 new playable characters, and honestly, it's actually quite fascinating to see them here, because according to recent interviews, they were meant to stay dead obscure characters. So if you were to ask most people on who they thought would become playable if Sonic Mania was to get new characters, most were going to tell you that it would be Amy Rose and or Metal Sonic. They both appeared in the classic era, and while predictable, they would be welcome fan favorites. But no, as you've seen, the privilege went to Ray and Mighty, 2 characters who, outside of the comics, were never meant to make it out in the 90s. In fact, Mighty only appeared playable twice and Ray only once in a very obscure arcade game that ran on a trackball, and in Mighty's case, Knuckles Chaotix as well. And that's all we ever saw of them outside of missing poster cameos. What's interesting about them appearing here is due to a recent interview with the head of Sonic Team's Takashi Iizuka, where he said he never had plans on bringing these 2 back, referring to them as sealed characters. So basically, because Sonic Mania was a passion project that wanted to be a celebration of 2D Sonic, they felt that these two would have been the most exciting to add. And while I still would love to see what Christian and the others could do with a playable Metal Sonic, Mighty and Ray showing up gave the series a bit of fresh air in my opinion, and I wouldn't have it any other way. These two are long overdue to make a return. So let's start with Ray. And first thing I want to say is whoever had the idea to get this dorky fucker the Fonzie thumbs up is brilliant and needs a promotion ASAP. The moment I saw it, I was almost in tears of laughter due to how goofy it was. I don't know why, but it just caught me off guard and I fucking love it. Only in classic Sonic could you get away with something like that. But anyway, Ray's unique ability is to soar through the air, and similar to the Cape Feather in Super Mario World, you can control his movement to keep him airborne for longer periods. Unfortunately, Ray feels like a bit of an afterthought in my opinion, as he's the weakest character out of the 5. Not because I think his unique skill is bad, oh no, quite the contrary. I'd say Ray's the perfect alternative flyer to Tails. Tails is more vertical based and easier to control at a cost of losing any speed and momentum after a couple seconds of flying. Ray on the other hand is like the complete opposite, where it takes more skill to get some air, but when you get it mastered, Ray will cover a lot of ground at a quick pace. The problem is that it's kinda rare to get the most out of him. Even in Encore mode, it's clear Mania's level design was not built with Ray in mind, and his ability is limited to what the level throws at him. Now, when you can get him going, it's easily one of the most exhilarating and rewarding things you can do in Mania. But when the level doesn't really allow you to, it feels like an awkward hassle to try and utilize him properly. Honestly, I think they should have given Ray an added perk like giving him the highest jump out of everyone to at least give him something to stand out. Now, I don't want to say Ray will feel obsolete to the rest. I made that mistake last time with making the assumption that the drop dash would go overlooked outside of speedrunners, and holy hell was I fucking wrong on that one. But compared to Mighty, he feels like the lesser, but that kinda goes without saying since Mighty has easily become my favorite character to play as in Sonic Mania, hands down. His unique ability is the hammer drop, which acts similar to the stomp in more recent games, but it's quick and you'll feel the impact every time he does it, as it'll break badniks or monitors near him. And he gets the added bonus of being immune to spikes or projectiles when he's curled up. That's so awesome! Mighty just feels so good to play as, but even if he didn't have the higher defense, he'd still be my favorite because of that hammer drop. The reason why is because if you know how to use it efficiently, just like Sonic's drop dash but to a lesser extent, you can use it to keep the pace and momentum going. If Sonic Mania 2 ever happens, Mighty better become a regular character because I've never had this much fun with a character in a classic 2D Sonic game. Oh, he's so good! But there you have it, that's Sonic Mania a year after release. Does the updated and plus content make it a better experience? Without a doubt, Sonic Mania feels complete now. Any valid complaint with the base game has been fixed for the most part. We've been given essentially a hard mode with a new life mechanic that I hope gets expanded on in the future. And we got 2 new characters that while one is limited by the level design, they are both still fun to play as when the game lets you get the most out of them. The only major negative I can think of at this point is that there's no option for online play in competition mode. But other than that, I can't think of anything major to criticize. With everything new here, even with the 8 returning zones being the biggest point against the game in the past, I think I can safely say that Sonic Mania is my favorite Sonic game at this point. You know, that's beating a game like Sonic 2. A game that I've been playing since I was 2 years old. You know, the nostalgic for that would have made that almost impossible to top. But it did. And it earned it. It fucking earned it. There's just too much here now for me to hold the game back over reusing old levels. At the very least, Sonic Mania is on par with Sonic 3 and Knuckles now, and the only way they can top this is if we get a sequel that brings everything Mania Plus established, but with all new levels and gimmicks. And maybe a couple more characters to play as. If I did scores for games and with the Plus DLC, Sonic Mania would easily be a 10 out of 10 for me. I know for a fact that I'll be coming back to this game for years to come. So if you're a fan of 2D Sonic and you still haven't played this game, then first off, what the hell are you doing? Second of all, go play! I don't care where, just go and play it, it's that fucking good, dum-dum. Now! Okay, but for the rest of you who have played, you guys have a great day, or night, or whenever the hell you watch this. You guys take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.